Hello, lovelies. Okay. So, welcome to Turning Emotions into Emotional Wisdom, Part 2. Apparently, I was really excited about this session, so I did an extra one yesterday. It was supposed to just happen today. So, bonus. Awesome. We are by a lake, although you can't see it because the wind is really bad there. But I chose this location today because of the symbolism of water. So, yeah, diving into the emotions. Water is a beautiful symbol for that. We can only sort of see what's on the surface, and there's so much underneath. One of my favorite poses in yoga is the crane pose, and that one invites you to, it's where you put your hands down. I'm not going to demonstrate it now, but you put your hands down on the ground, and then you rest your shins on the back of your bicep and tilt forward, and so you're balanced on your wrists, and it's the precarious balance of diving into our emotional world. It's a really cool pose. So yesterday we ended up talking a lot about the balance of emotion. Like the big takeaway for me was how when we get into over and under functioning, which is Brene Brown's way of looking at, or what she discovered through her research about how people respond to anxiety. And the over functioners tend to get busy doing, while the under functioners tend to crumble under the pressure. And what happened in the session yesterday was that we anchored into the primary masculine, which is that sense of like all the beautiful things masculine, the vision, the getting stuff done, taking care of those, the details that way, whereas the feminine, that intellectual mind, whereas the feminine is the more intuitive, emotional, go with the flow. And for the masculine, we anchored into the idea that for those under-functioners, we're anchoring into that functioning place, and taking just the simple, what is the next step? Breaking it down so that it's just, then we can just do the next thing. And then for the over-functioners, we anchored into the feminine primary matrix and the idea that we just need to feel what's now. We don't need to sort it out, have any answers, go beyond that. Just do the simple little reality check. So when you get into do, just stop for a second, go, what do I feel right now? And especially if you're in a big stress point, you might find that the first thing is, I feel tired. The reality might just be you're tired, you're hungry, and it's a matter of honoring those sensations, those feelings, and then the emotions will come as well. And to honor it is to give it space, listen, be willing to just be with it. If you've ever had a hard time and gone to a friend and they just are willing to sit with you in it, not needing to fix anything. It's not about advice, it's not about thinking that there's a problem, but just sit with you in it. You'll find that it's a really powerful moment of connection, and the emotion goes. It does its job and it goes. And that's the same thing that you're going to do for yourself when you get into that place of over-functioning, where I can't deal with the feelings of the moment, so I'm going to deal with the things I can control in my environment. Is to just check in and go with what do I feel right now. So those were some of my big takeaways from yesterday. And then when I realized that the session was actually booked for today, I got excited to see what would come up next. So if you haven't seen one of these sessions before, what I do is I use something called Mindscape, which is a visualization tool that allows me to get into the alpha brainwave state where I can access people's energy blueprints. And the energy blueprint contains all the information for your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, your spiritual body. And that is the level that we are working on, is that energy blueprint. And even when we do a session in person, that's the same thing we're working on. We're not really working on the physical body. It's just a cool tool for us to focus on. And then we tap. And so we'll tap on the head, the heart, and then the gut. And when we're tapping on the head, we're creating a standing wave vibration that is asking the brain to make these changes. So the changes that come up through the session, the connections. And then we tap on the heart, because your heart stores your energy blueprint. So we want that new information saved, that new way of being to be saved and pumped through your systems from there. And then the gut is for integration. You've got your gut brain, so many cells, so many, the whole bio business that's going on down there. We're just bringing everybody up to speed, and that helps to integrate everything. So what I'll do now is guide you through a little bit of breathing, and then I'll go into Mindscape and we'll start the session. So wherever you're at, become aware of your breathing. No need to judge or change it. Just check in. What is it today? And then as you become familiar with it, you can start to invite it to go a little deeper, a little fuller. Just doing yourself the beautiful favor of paying attention to how you're doing. So as that becomes comfortable, just invite your breath to become more even. Inhaling through the nose, really feeling the air on all the edges of your nostrils, and then exhaling through the mouth. Letting each breath be an opportunity to release any tension, any holding that you don't need anymore. Through the nose, and letting go through the mouth. There's a breathing exercise in yoga called Hamsa Soham, and it translates to I am she, I am he. And what it means is it's an affirmation of your divinity, that sacred masculine, sacred feminine. So every time you breathe, you are affirming your divinity. Okay. So keeping your focus on your breath, allowing your exhale to relax you deeper, and your inhale to bring you more awareness. I'm going to go into Mindscape. So in Mindscape, I'm inviting in all the people who have registered, and a representative for the people who will watch the video but who haven't registered, so you're taken into account as well. Actually, we're having another representative come in, and it's just for anybody who needs it. Anybody who needs this session that may or may not know about it. And yesterday, our representative for emotions was an art studio, and it started out, and when it ended, it was just a fuller studio with more colors. It was just permission to get messy, to get big. And today, I'm seeing it like a rock, just a lump sort of in between all of us. So we'll see if that comes to mean anything else. So for the session, what I do is I just use my hand for muscle testing, and I'm working through the BodyTalk protocol to see which aspects need to be reconnected in order to have the healthiest balance. So in this process, if you just want to keep on paying attention to your breath, and then I'll tell you what's coming up as it comes up. So the first thing that's coming up is the Chinese 5 elements and the elements of metal. So metal, the natural emotion of metal is grief, and the job and the role of grief is to cauterize. So if we have a tree with a diseased limb, we cut the limb off and just sever that connection so that the energy of the tree is no longer going to that non-life sustaining limb. And that's the role of grief in our lives, is to help us focus our energy on the life we're living. So, and I'm seeing the image I'm getting from metal is a really clean, sharp, clear edge. And the message I'm getting about that is that grief is compassion. It hurts. Well, that's my experience anyways, that it can actually be physically quite painful. For me, it gets me here a lot, but also I can really feel it in my chest. But it's I feel like grief has come to look at me and say, I'm doing this because I love you. So then, along with that, the next piece is an active memory. So it's about around the heart and love, and it's life is love. So I'm having a lot of information come in about this at the same time. What that feels like to me is that if you're not feeling love, look for where the life is. So where do you feel alive? An example of what I mean by that is just in your thinking. So if you're stuck in a thought that doesn't have any life to it, it just goes down, then find the life in it. It's almost like the silver lining. But love, it's like love life first. Don't wait for life to love you, because it already does. So you just need to show up. It's like there's a kink in your hose whenever you're not feeling loved. And just find it by seeking out, where do you feel alive? And that could be as simple as a little thing you do in a day. Like, do you feel alive when you're outside? Do you feel alive when you're running, stretching, laughing? Laugh therapy is hilarious, where you just laugh no matter if there's a reason or not. It can be really effective. So go to life. Go to life. That's where the love is. So our active memory around love is life is love. Okay. So those two are coming together, and then they're linking to, so linking is that reestablishing the connection. It's almost like just a little communication breakdown happened, and so we're reestablishing that communication with the primary feminine matrix within each of us. So in everybody, there's a primary masculine and feminine matrix. They live about here, solar plexus sort of area. I like to visualize them as like our own little yin-yang symbols. And generally in women, the feminine is larger and the masculine smaller, and vice versa. But we all have both. And so we're linking into the primary feminine matrix. Yeah, no further details on that one, so that's just hook into that. Yeah, so it's just a note that our primary feminine matrix houses our sense of mothering, of nurturing, of compassion, and also that cycle of birth, sustaining, and destruction. So that's what we're really anchoring into. We need to broaden our definition of feminine to not mean female. Okay, and then we've got another active memory coming up. And this one's a fear. It's the fear of being unworthy. Not good enough comes to my mind too, but that's not quite right. Unworthy of. So this is where you get to tune into what is it for you? What are you afraid you're unworthy of? Unworthy of love, unworthy of success, unworthy of healthy finances, unworthy of healthy body. What is it you're afraid you're not worthy of? Something that you want or you feel like you should have, but you're just afraid you're not worthy of it. For the general purposes, we're going to go with unworthy of my life. So like unworthy to be filling the shoes of your own life. Okay, and then that's linking to diaphragm to intestines. So the diaphragm is the halfway house for emotions. When we experience an emotion, it has a few different pathways it can go. It can be expressed, whether through tears or voice or movement in your body. It can be expressed. Or it can be stored. Your liver is actually in charge of that, and it can find different places to tuck it. So sometimes if you've got pain in your body, there's a chance that you've tucked some emotions somewhere in your body. And then the other option is that if you're done with your emotions, they'll just go out with the rest of the waste. So that's why we're doing diaphragm to intestines after an active memory, because active memories just have an emotion still attached to them. So we're going to sever the emotion, escort it out, and let's see if there's another link. Okay, so we're going to tap that one out. So we've got grief and our active memory with life is love. So if you're not feeling the love, find the life. Find where you feel alive, and you'll feel the love. And then that's linking into the primary feminine matrix. And then we've got our active memory with the fear of not being worthy of our own lives. Okay, so I'm going to get you to place a hand on the solar plexus to represent that primary feminine energy within you. And then the other hand for your heart to anchor into that sense of life and love and worthiness. So I just want you to hold those two, and you're going to gently tap on the heart with the hand you're holding there. And what you're wanting to do is just create a resonance, a vibration through your chest, through your heart, through that heart center. Remember that this is the tapping on the heart is the tapping we're doing to get this new way of being stored in your energy blueprint. I like to think of it like sending the memo to all the different parts of you. Okay, and then I'll hold the rest of the tapping. And we're going to go with our little mantra of life is love. Letting yourself inhale, you're just tapping on your heart and holding your diaphragm area. Life is love. Where there is life, there is love. Where there is life, there is love. Where there is life, there is love. So as we're tapping this out, I'm getting a sense of that primary feminine that we were talking about, and how it has the ability to destroy as well as create or sustain. And how grief is, the role that grief plays for us is to allow us to process the parts of our life that are over, so that we can focus on the parts of our life that are happening. So it's just, I've got a little spider. Just tuning into the love and compassion that role, that part of life plays for us. Where there is life, there is love. 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 Let your hands relax. Feel that resonate through you. That vibration you created using your voice and the tapping. Let it resonate through you. Okay, so that's it for part 2, our little bonus on emotional wisdom. It was like a little focus on grief. On another note, with grief, my experience of it has been that there are so many different levels. Like, it can be small and fleeting, or it can just rip through you. And I've noticed it feels like waves. Sometimes it just comes and goes in waves for me. And the message I'm getting from this session is to be kind and patient and compassionate, knowing that your grief is part of your life. I'd love to hear your stories of grief, if there's anything that you're having a hard time working through, or if you found that a trick, not that there's a trick, because I've noticed that it just takes the time it takes and it hurts the way it hurts, but if there's a way that you've found to experience grace through grief, I'd love for you to share. yeah, the biggest one I've found is just to remember that somehow grief is timeless. There's no statute of limitations on when you're supposed to be over something. And just let it work through you. It's serving a purpose that ultimately is for you to have your beautiful whole life. So I'm gonna dip back into Mindscape here, or check back in with our little group and see what we've got. So that the image I had at the beginning of this like stone, this lump, makes sense. It's kind of like it's representing like a tombstone. So just letting our dead be our dead, whether it's ideas or people or versions of ourselves, who we thought we were going to be. Honoring it, visiting it when we need to, but letting it go. I actually today came across a tin of ashes from my time at Yashodhara Ashram, where we did a rose ceremony, and then we burnt the roses. Is that what we did? No. We put the roses in water. What we burnt was a list of the things that we had sort of come through. It was a beautiful ceremony. And I've had these ashes since 2007. And I found them today, and I thought, oh man, like I remember what I wrote on that piece of paper. And I've gone through so many iterations of what that was. And I thought, today might be the day to just let it go. So I'm gonna take my little tin of ashes and I'm gonna throw it in the lake as a symbol for all of us. So if there's anything that you feel like you've let go and you're ready to really let it go, you can stick it in my little tin of ashes and I'll release it for you. So let's just take a quick little minute. And in Mindscape, I'm seeing everybody come in and put what they would write on their piece of paper. Pulling it all together for the big release. Yeah. Okay. So everyone's out of Mindscape now, and if you've got issues coming up for you with emotions, I'd love to work with you one-on-one. Give me a shout, and we'll get brave together and see what's in your path. All right. Bye, lovelies. See you next week.